I said, gentlemen, it's my last chance to use the gavel, so I'm just going to keep using it here. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Breezy Point City Council. It's December 15th, 2014, and the time is 7 p.m. What we have on the agenda tonight is a public hearing, road improvement hearing for the areas of Snowman Circle and Shady Trail from Scenic Overlook to Rainier Drive. This is a public hearing, and there is a special procedure that one must follow in order to conduct a public hearing. So it is now open. We will begin with a review of improvements by Tim Hool, who is our engineer. And if you would like to review that for us, Tim, that would be great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will try to use the microphone here just for the recording purposes without screwing things up too bad. Councilmember Williams, I apologize. You're probably going to see more of the back of me than the front of me.
Okay.
You may be black, I don't know. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Make sure you sign in, and hopefully you were able to grab a handout. I'll just try to go through it fairly quickly. But as the mayor said, there is a certain process for these proposed special assessment projects. And on the first page, you'll see the steps that we'll cover tonight at this public improvement or preliminary assessment hearing. On the second page, draw your attention to page 2 of 11. There is a state statute for the different steps that we need to go through. It's not a one and done kind of situation. There are several steps where the council takes input, and also the council needs to vote on different things. The initiation of proceedings, I want to mention that. Citizens can initiate a special assessment project, or the council, in this case the council did. I'll cover a little bit more information on that. We did do a feasibility report looking at estimated costs. No design at this stage, beginning, no surveys, no design. So we're looking pretty high level at estimated costs. We're at number 3 and 4, the improvement hearing or the preliminary assessment hearing. The next step, should the council decide to move forward, would be to order the preparation of plans. The improvements would then be bid, and once the bids are received, the council has what's called a final assessment hearing. Excuse me, somewhat similar to this, to gather additional input and feedback. Again, should things continue to proceed, there is an approval and certification of the special assessment role. The project is ordered in, the bid is accepted, and then the improvements are constructed. We will have time for questions at the end of the public hearing, so I'm going to just kind of keep rolling pretty quickly through this. On page 3, a little history. There's a lot of history, but a little history of this particular set of projects. A couple different subdivision plats involved. The existing roadways were constructed back when these plats were put in. Gravel surface, various provisions for handling storm and water runoff, different size roadside ditches or sometimes lack of. On October 6th, the City of Breezy Point directed WSN to prepare a feasibility study, and we looked at several, it's not Showman, it's Snowman Circle, I just noticed that typo. Several different roadway segments. I maybe could have put another little bullet ahead of that. The city does have a road committee, and the staff in the past had tried to put together kind of a inventory of different roadways. The road committee looks periodically at that and tries to assess, and it's not a perfect spreadsheet kind of format, but try to assess what roadways might be due for some improvement or paving. On November 3rd, after discussion of the report, including the road committee recommendation, the city accepted the report and passed a resolution calling for the hearing tonight. Another bullet I could have put in there is we did have an open house. It's not an official part of the process, but it was more of a courtesy to the residents, to the property owners. Moving to page 4, It's a map showing the segments, the two segments that we're talking about tonight. There's a green segment, Snowman Circle, and then there's the red segment, Shady Trail. It's not all of Shady Trail. There are budget considerations that factor into these decisions, and that definitely factored into this map that you're looking at here. The city did not have the budget, want to go into debt to continue all the way to the end of Shady Trail on this particular year. If you look at the map, it's not a perfect, north, south, east, west set of roadways, but you've got Bushman Road going east-west towards the top. You've got Ski Chalet Drive going east-west in the middle. Shady Trail somewhat serves that purpose of an east-west roadway in the middle of this particular section. Moving to sheet 5, summary of the proposed improvements. Again, we don't have a design. I can't show you construction plans, but we start out with some what's called typical sections. So there may be some removal of trees, clearing of brush, if they're in the way of the roadway construction, stockpiling the topsoil. For the Shady Trail roadway, we'd be looking at a 22-foot wide roadway surface. Out there today, you can pace it off at different locations, but that's about how wide Shady Trail is. 3-foot class 1 aggregate shoulder to try and protect the edge of that pavement, that investment. We note here 2-foot deep roadway ditches. That will vary. It's not going to be a perfect 2-foot deep. It could be much less in certain locations, depending on the storm drainage. Underneath that, or for the pavement section, it'd be 4 inches of class 5 and 2 inches of bituminous pavement, something that the staff has indicated, which we would pursue in a design phase, is trying to look at using the existing roadbed gravel base as much as possible. So that may decrease from a new aggregate base perspective. Snowman Circle, a little narrower. It's a cul-de-sac. Generally about the same situation with the cul-de-sac. We're also going to have some storm drainage involved there. We'll have to work with a property owner on a storm drainage easement. And then we put everything back, get the topsoil back, seed it, and mulch it. I did already mention there at the bottom of page 5 about design scenario, we'd be looking at ways to use the existing roadbed, try and reduce some of these estimated costs that I'll show you here in a moment. On page 6, those estimated costs, people always want to know the final number. I cannot stand here tonight and tell you the final number. We have to get through a design phase, we have to get through public bidding. It'll be interesting, I'll say, as a sidebar, what's going to happen with public bidding in the spring of 2015. Last year it was very competitive. A lot of contractors had gone out to North Dakota. Oil was higher than it is now. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen with the construction economy. But again, these are estimated numbers. Really won't know until the conclusion of design and when bids are taken. Snowman Circle is estimated at $73,000. Project costs, construction, engineering, financing, administrative. And Shady Trail is estimated at $224,845. The asterisk is in the wrong place. It should have been up by Snowman Circle. I mentioned earlier that we will have some storm drainage easements. On page 7, the estimated assessment approach, people then say, okay, that seems like a huge number, Tim. How is it going to be split up? The city does have a policy. They divide the project between benefited property owners and the city in some cases. This roadway project doesn't really have many situations where the city is going to pick up a cost. So the policy for roadway projects are 100% of the project costs are especially assessed to the abutting benefited property owners. I did talk to a couple of you before the meeting about the number of lots and whatnot and how they're split. One of the policy provisions is if you're on a corner lot and you've already had a roadway adjacent to your corner lot paved and you were specially assessed 1 unit, the side lot, so to speak, is especially assessed at 0.5. If you are on a corner lot and neither of the corner streets, not talking about the intersection, but neither of the corner streets have been paved in the past, then you're going to have a special assessment unit of 1.
25 meaning 50%.
Yes, and so you'll see here in Snowman Circle, there's actually 8 lots, but the 2 end lots, they're on 4 seasons, and though that road was already paved, those folks were already specially assessed 1 unit. So in this particular Snowman Circle project, they would be specially assessed 0.5. So you take that $73,000 project cost, divide it by the 7, and you come up with a per lot special assessment estimate of about $10,429. Similarly, you do the same process for Shady Trail. There it's a longer stretch, 28.5 lots, and that is just under 7,900 estimated per lot. This process, not these exact numbers, but this process would be used should these projects proceed to the final assessment stage. On page 8, getting towards the end here, anticipated schedule. Should the council vote to proceed, it's expected that bids would be open around the end of February 2015. We review those bids, and if acceptable, call for a final assessment hearing. Mentioned that process earlier on, and I'll touch on it again here before the comments. That final assessment hearing would likely be held at the end of March 2015. If everything proceeds, the project would be constructed this summer. Construction issues. Again, we would have the final assessment hearing prior to construction, but just to let people know, because sometimes we get into a mode where we do this all the time and we forget that most people only run into a construction project in front of their house maybe once, maybe twice. And so there would be some temporary road closures, some rerouting during construction. Other times there will just be challenging road conditions. The contractor would be able to keep it open to your driveway, but it might be pretty sandy or whatnot. There's going to be dust. I mentioned about the driveway access. Some days they might be knocking on the door saying, hey, can you get out by 8 o'clock, or we need to be paving or doing some work in front of your driveway or something like that. We'll have to work on postal delivery and trash collection. Those are always issues during construction. Again, should this project proceed forward, we try to get the word out to residents. Are there any health concerns? Sometimes we can do something about that during construction, sometimes we can't. But lawn irrigation sometimes is an issue on projects where people put their sprinkler systems right out into the right of way up to the roadway. Other improvements out in the right of way. So those will be some questions if the projects proceed that we would be asking residents to notify us or the city. Again, on page 10, just hitting this procedure that Minnesota Statute 429 has. Tonight we're at the preliminary assessment for improvement hearing at number 4. The next step would be the council to consider ordering the preparation of plans, which requires a vote. And then the last page, page 11 of 11, I believe the council, after I shut up here, the council might have some questions for me. And then the mayor would open a public hearing for residents to make comments. It is a legal public hearing. Again, make sure you sign in. Written comments are acceptable. Verbal comments, obviously, tonight. And the mayor is going to recognize one person at a time. And I think those are the general ground rules, but the may touch on a few more. So with that, Madam Mayor and City Council, I'll open it up for questions, I guess, first, if you would like, or however you'd like to proceed at this point.
We will do that. Thank you. I will begin with Councilmember Williams. Do you have questions?
I do. Remember, I raised the question about the density, if that gets built up, and the conflict between the septics and the wells. And there was me some looking at that. Is that like a little look at, did that occur, and does anybody have any information?
Well, I know that in the past, planning and zoning looked at different size lots and the different separation rules. It's pretty hard, I would say, to try and come up with an overall answer, because every lot does have some different, layout requirements. But Joe might be able to correct me, but my understanding was that that previous look-see said that for the general size of the lots versus the rules of separation, there should be enough space. And again, you can analyze each lot independently and come up with answers, but we didn't go through 28 lots and 7 lots.
I wasn't questioning whether they would actually fit. Tim Polipnik was of the opinion that when that started to build out, that there would be, though they may fit physically on the lot, that there would be well contamination problems when that was filled to its, maximum density. And that he had targeted that as an area that should be considered for future sewer. So my question is, if we start paving in there, we know that brings development. We've seen that before. When you pave it, they will come. So are we encouraging development and then building in a problem for ourselves in the future? Or should we first get the sewer up there and then be ready instead of, doing one in the wrong order?
Right. The road committee did look at that, kind of looking at council members Schmidt and Maroney, but they can give their take on it if they would like to my off base. The road committee and the staff did look at that very question. Are we getting something out of order here? Should we be doing sanitary sewer first and then the paving? In general, I think yes, you should be doing sanitary sewer first, then the paving. However, when we looked at where the city's sanitary sewer is presently, how far it is to get to Shady Trail, the different steps and projects that literally would have to be invested in even to get to Shady Trail. In general, the size of the lots on Shady Trail are slightly larger. That combination of issues, we felt at the committee level that paving Shady Trail, we would have pavement life out of that prior to sanitary sewer really getting or needing to get to that level. There's a lot of steps before sanitary sewer could get to that stage.
How many homes are actually on Shady Trail, residents?
Right now?
Yeah, of the 28 and a half lot.
Yeah, I was going to say 6, but 5 to 6 in that range.
And are they year-round? Has anybody done like a traffic study to see how much action
I don't
actually is
believe
on that
any
street?
traffic counts have been conducted, and we haven't looked at whether they're homestead or year-round or seasonal.
And have any of those 6 people requested paving?
No, again, my comment earlier was that this was not a petition-driven project. It's a city-initiated project.
Thank you. We'll go down, and then I think I will give every council member a second opportunity to ask
In
questions.
case something comes to mind.
Yes. I have a question before we move on to Councilmember Lillehei. What is considered the average life of a road? As I recall, isn't it 15 years? Or is it more?
Yeah, some people throw out different years. 20 years is a round number that I use. Usually there's got to be some maintenance, prior to that 20 years. Roadways have lasted 15 to 25 years. It varies on the traffic. Garbage trucks and school buses sometimes can be the most loaded. Also weather. There's some roadways that don't necessarily have a lot of traffic per se, but just our weather, like especially this weather that we're having right now, could do a number on the life of roadways. So I'm dancing around your answer simply because there isn't a perfect set number of years, but we're in the ballpark with 50-year plan.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember Littleheim?
No, I don't have any new questions to raise at this point.
Okay, Councilmember Schmidt?
Tim, I think we all know there are utilities, electric, cable, telephone, that are buried in the area. What type of disruption, if I lived there, would I be expected to experience?
Generally speaking, I think with just a roadway improvement, there should be minimal issues. Now, I've said that in a public hearing, and that means the contractor's gonna cut, a telephone line. I've had underground projects that have gone really smooth, and they've got cables hanging all over the place, and they don't hit anything, and then I've had roadway projects where they do accidentally hit something. But in general, we could have some grading in the ditches. That would probably be the point of closest interaction. But with the Gopher State one-call rules that we have in place, and I know I'm using a perspective that most people don't have, but it's really cut down on issues. You have to do Gopher one-call during design, and then they're invited to pre-construction meeting, and the contractor's got to do another Gopher one-call. So generally for a roadway, pretty minimal, and then there's those other processes that help minimize it.
May I follow? When will we know, based on the engineering work that you're going to do, if this project proceeds, when will we know if utilities will have to be relocated, elevated, or deepened, as it were?
Yeah. Prior to the bid, and then flipping back to the anticipated schedule, we're shooting, should we proceed, to have bids at the end of February. So sometime in the January or early February range, we're going to have that information from the utilities. We'll have some level of design done for the roadway, and we'll start to see what kind of potential interaction or lack of interaction there may be.
One last question in regards to that, if I could, Madam Mayor. If there is a determination that the utility companies have to relocate or do some adjusting of where their utilities are, is there any cost to the property owner or to the city for that effort?
There should not be, because if a utility is in the public right of way, which again, I don't know for sure, but they most times are, they are there by permit. And so if the city implements a construction project, they need to move at their cost. And then as far as a line, a utility line going back on the private property, we don't anticipate needing to go back on the private property, or very, very little. And I guess I wouldn't see any situation where a private property owner would have to pay for a utility relocate or a raising or lowering, unless they wanted to initiate it for some reason themselves.
Thanks, Tim.
Councilmember Maroney?
I have no questions.
Councilmember
I have
Williams?
no one.
I'm looking fine.
Well, you know I'm always going to ask.
I'll stop asking, please.
Are there any known storm water issues at this point that we're aware of?
We haven't done a survey of sorts. When I say survey, it's a very loose use of that term. No one's come to me to date, staff or even at the open house, and indicated, oh my gosh, this is a terrible, terrible situation. We do have some challenges like Snowman Circle, just the way the grade is, and we'll have to, follow up on those in a design phase. But to date, I haven't heard anything.
Is it customary for WSN to contact property owners requesting feedback if there are drainage issues?
Yeah, customary, not sure I can say that. We have worked with cities before to send out a little info sheet. You know, I had on one of the pages about sprinkler, lawn irrigation in the right of way, other improvements in the right of way, especially when we get into sewer and water jobs, we'll ask them about the sewer or water. Some of these kinds of projects, we might ask them, you know, where is your well? Some people don't realize that they need to have certain isolation distances around their well. I'm going to say most of these are of vintage that those should have been taken care of just fine. Sometimes we do send out a letter or a survey like that to ask some of those kinds of questions.
Now, my understanding from the discussion at the committee level was that the ditching on either side of the roadway, you talked about 2-foot deep ditches, I would call that a rural standard, I guess. That may or may not necessitate culverts underneath where the driveways connect to the roadway. Is that correct?
Correct. We'll have to look at that a little closer. I'm going to separate Shady Trail here for a moment from Snowman Circle. Snowman Circle does definitely have a distinct grade to it, so the storm drainage will have to be looked at in a little closer detail there. Shady Trail, again, unless someone comes to me and just points out major issues, we may be able not to change a whole lot on Shady Trail. Is storm drainage and snow storage and snow melts being taken care of off the roadway. My personal opinion is that you talked about the life of the road in here. Water is the killer. I've got an anecdote from a county engineer that had a roadway with 4-foot deep ditches, which to me was the old rural standard, but people didn't like how deep they were and how far out you had to get with the construction, and so public pressure has been pushing for probably 2-foot deep ditches, and this county engineer didn't have, you know, pavement measuring density meters or whatever, but he just said the 4-foot deep ditch roadway has lasted a lot longer than the 2-foot deep ditch roadway. I'm not proposing 4-foot deep ditches, but all I'm trying to say is that we want to make sure that the drainage is getting off the roadway. Some people will see pavement and think, oh my gosh, that caused all my drainage problems. A pretty well compacted Class 5 surface can shed water pretty similarly to a paved roadway. But there is the perception out there that, you know, before the grass gets established, if I have a drainage issue, well, it's your fault because you paved the roadway. But if we don't have a lot of issues right now, I personally don't want to have anybody spend money to change significantly if it's already taken care of.
If there were issues, again, focusing on the ditches, and I'm trying to recall if there are any cut banks where there would have to be sloping as you're going back off the ditch, that would be included as part of the construction costs, I take it.
Correct. Yep, there shouldn't be any private property cost or whatever.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Maroney. Recall, Council, once we close the public hearing, there will be another opportunity, when we debate passing Resolution 14-29, there will be another opportunity for discussion at that time. There will not be, if you need more information, now is the time to ask for it. And I see an indicator that everybody is satisfied at this point, okay? That concludes that part of the public hearing. I would like to invite any member of the public who's in attendance to please come forward, state your name and address, and make your comments.
Good evening.
Good evening.
William Dorr. I'm 2 properties on Snowman Circle, both 8452 and 8472 Snowman Circle. I'm here in opposition to the paving of it, and just like to make a few points. This came in front of the council in 2008, I believe, and it was voted against. It was voted against for the cost of that improvement and what it really does to the property values that are there. Just in the state of the economy then, and probably the state of the economy now, it would cost me personally $21,000 to pave it. At that time, there was design work, so I didn't see that in the history of this, but it was proposed to have a retainage pond, because there was a runoff issue at Snowman Circle, which there is at the bottom of the circle, water ponds at the bottom, and I own property right at the end, and another one on the hill that's obviously high and dry. So, you know, those two things combined, that there isn't a pond in the design now, I'm a little concerned that there will be more issues, and I'd like to know what could be done with that water. So the runoff is an issue. Also, just you know, one of the members of the council here is a resident of Snowman Circle, so I would think that at least as anything pertains to voting or part of any kind of a paving committee, there would be a little bit of a conflict of interest, and we'd have to address that too. So.
Can I respond to that, Madam Mayor?
If you, in 1 second here, I would just let this gentleman finish. Do you
So-
have any other
so those are my
questions or
concerns.
concerns?
I just think it's not really prudent timing. The $21,000 or the $10,000 for someone that has a single family home on there. The value they'll see of that paving in the marketability of their home, although it may go up, I think it wouldn't really represent that. I think that you'll find that the reason you voted against it in 2008 was for those very reasons. And I'm not sure much has changed since then. So.
Okay, I would like to address your questions in the order you presented them.
Okay.
Regarding the design features and the retaining ponds, that sort of thing, has that been discussed from an engineering standpoint?
Madam Mayor, yes, there was a previous design laid out. We would take as many of the components of that design to minimize any new work. It did include a storm drainage easement concept along property owner, edge of the property to another lot or two that property owner owned, which is a natural low area. So that would be, and I think I mentioned that there would be some storm drainage easements on the Snowman Circle project, so that would be part of it.
Thank you. Councilmember Schmidt, you wish to make a comment?
First of all, I just want to, would you state your name again?
William Dorr, D-O-E-R-R.
Okay, and your address was?
8452 Snowman Circle, 8472 Snowman Circle, and probably 5-6 other properties in Breezy that aren't affected by this.
Okay.
I don't live in either home at this moment.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're not a resident of, you own properties there? but
Yeah,
you're
I
not-
was, and I'm not currently.
Okay, gotcha. I want to just speak to the conflict of interest scenario, and Joe can, I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Right.
The council is always very sensitive to conflicts of interest because we do a lot of things.
Yeah,
that
I'm not implying that there is a conflict. I just know that Michael was a neighbor of mine.
Yeah.
He's on the committee, and I know he has contacted me in favor of paving it, and was looking for my endorsement of it, which I'm opposed to it. But if he was in any kind of a capacity to have voting on this tonight or any other night,
Yeah.
and a part of the committee that chooses which areas are being paved, I see that as a potential conflict of interest, and I think you may agree.
And if it were, I would encourage him not to vote. But
Right.
the fact of the matter is, in checking with the League of Cities in Minnesota, a sitting council member may vote on an improvement that affects his or her property.
Okay,
They are
yeah,
not
and
pre-
I'm not aware of it, so I was just pointing that out.
Yeah, and I think it's well known to everybody here that he happens to be a resident of Snowman, but,
Yeah.
you know, happenstance might be next week or next year or next
Right.
month, there may be a project in front of my house that I would have to vote on.
Understood, so.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thanks, Mayor.
And I'll just put one more clarifying, just to put it out for public record. The whole process needed to start with a 4/5 vote to start the whole process. I did not vote on that 4/5 vote. So just to put that on comment.
So 4/5 of Snowman Circle voted.
No 4/5 of
For
the
the
council, I
council,
apologize.
4 out of 5,
Okay.
to at least look at it and move forward step by step.
Sure. So, I understand, everybody wants to pave it and make an improvement. I just don't think the timing is proper, given the economy. Also, at that time, it was only 5 years ago, the cost was $7,000 something. It's gone up 40%, and the cost of paving hasn't gone up, if anything. Some of these construction costs have come down, so I would think that, and that included a pond, so I'm a little confused as to where the costs are projected, but it seems high for paving.
Thank you.
$80,000 for that structure.
Do you wish to make a comment relative to,
Sure, Madam Mayor. No, run into that all the time, that the costs do seem high. At this study stage, we try to be realistic, and yet if we're going to miss the mark, I've never hit it perfect, we try to err on the high side. It's never a fun subsequent hearing to come back and say to people, oh, guess what? You know, it's a higher number. And had that happen, just because of how the market ends up. But, so we've tried to estimate a little high. I could have put a much lower number and made this hearing a lot easier, perception-wise a lot easier. And again, we really won't know until the marketplace tells us. But we're also going to be looking at some things to, as I mentioned during the presentation, to try and minimize that cost estimate that we put together, because we did, for example, put in 4 inches of class 5. We've had discussions with staff, how much more of this could we use and maybe narrow down that 4 inches.
thank you. Joe, I would ask, do you have a question or
Yeah, no,
comment?
I just had another point. We're gonna get bids in the project before we order it, and before we move forward, so from that perspective, we'll know what the costs are.
Are the costs of that pond and any property you need to purchase for easements or any of that included in the cost? you get for
The
the
easement cost, the construction cost was included. The easement cost was a variable that we didn't show at this stage. So that will have to be incorporated into the final project.
We have talked to the property owner, and he's amenable to it, but
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dorr, very much. Is there someone else who would like to come forward?
My name is Todd Rogenkamp. I live at 8100 Shady Trail. And I would just like to make a few comments, and also I have a few questions in regards to this project. I will come out and state that I am opposed to the improvements that are being recommended for Shady Trail at this point. One of the things that I would start off by saying is the comment is in my time of living there, I don't believe that the amount of traffic that you see on Shady Trail warrants paving that road at this point. You know, I live there, I'm there every day, I work from my home, so I'm there all day. And the amount of traffic that goes by there is minimal to none. And so from my perspective, when I look at that and you talk about maintenance costs, I know there's been some comments about, I was here at the open house, and there were some comments made in regards to, well, there's maintenance of a gravel road and there's maintenance of an asphalt road. That's true, there are. What I'd like to ask is, was there any kind of a study done on a 15 to 20 year of what your maintenance costs are on a paved road compared to what your maintenance costs are on a gravel road? What are those costs? And maybe if you start looking at that to analyze it, we may find that, well, you know, those costs may wash out. They may be similar, who knows? But if that hasn't been done, that might be something that needs to be considered. Another thing to go along with that is the idea that it's a 15 to 20 year road. We just heard Tim present his information, and that question was asked, how long? And that 15 to 20 years, again, that's going to come up again. So in 15 to 20 years, that road's going to need to be repaved. It's going to have to get paid for again. Now, I know that's 15 to 20 years out, but if I'm still a landowner or homeowner in 15 to 20 years, I pay for it again. So from my perspective, I guess I don't have a problem with living on a gravel road. I don't have an issue with that at all. I guess if I did, I probably wouldn't have purchased the house that I bought. Along with that, one of the things I do want to point out is that the policy of the city of Breezy Point is that that a landowner or homeowner incurs 100% of the cost for the road improvements, as the policy is set. So not only do we pay for it 100% in the assessment on our taxes, but we also are going to pay for it in our increase in market value, because it is going to increase our market value. So that is going to increase my taxes again. And I can tell you my market value just went up on my place this year quite substantially. And so that's an increase in taxes I'm already paying, plus I'm going to pay it again. So in my mind, I'm paying taxes almost twice. I'm paying for a road that I really don't want. I'm paying for a road that I hear that the city of Breezy wants. So from my perspective, if that's what the city of Breezy wants, then maybe they need to consider how they go about helping pay for some of that, rather than put that all on the homeowner that lives there. Along with that, I do have, before I go any further, I do have a letter from one of the homeowners, if I could present that.
Certainly, I'll
It's a
take
letter
that.
from
Thank
one
you,
of the
Todd.
homeowners, verbal comment that they want me to, it's signed, stated. But I can tell you that I've talked with the 6 homeowners that live along that property. I only know of one that's in favor of it. Now, I know there's 28 and a half lots that are there, but there's 6 residents that live along that. And so, you know, again, it goes back to what I'm talking about with the impact of all the traffic that's on the road. Does that really warrant it? And then the one other thing that I wanted to ask was, how in the process with the road committee and the council, how was Shady Trail chosen? When I start looking around at all the roads in Breezy Point, I know of one that's very close to my place, Winter Trail, it's half paved. So why wasn't that one considered for paving the remainder of that road to the corner? So what was the process that was taken in looking at Shady Trail and saying Shady Trail should be paved? Again, like I said, there's a lot of other roads that I know right next to mine that are not paved. And so I guess it would be interesting to hear what the process is, or what the thought process is behind deciding Shady Trail being the one to be paved. And I do know that at the open house it was stated that it was considering paving all of Shady Trail, but due to budget constraints, you're only looking at half of Shady Trail. So now you're going to have another half paved road. I don't know, to me the thought process behind it doesn't seem like it's very well put together. So that really, at this point, those are all the comments and questions I have, but I can tell you that I don't see a reason for that road to be paved.
Thank you, Todd. Please don't sit down yet. I will want to ask you about the letter you handed me, but first of all, I'd like to address your comments.
Yep.
One of the first, you stated that you were opposed. You stated your perception of the amount of traffic and that you're there to see on a day-to-day, almost sometimes hour-to-hour basis,
Yes.
what's happening. You asked, had there been a study regarding gravel versus paving costs over a time span? Tim, you would be the most likely person to be able to answer that generally.
Right, the city has not asked us to do a study of their costs versus gravel and paving.
And
There's general studies out there, but I've seen, you can find the study that you want to support your position.
I agree with that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. I just wanted to know if it had been done. I just think it's something that needs to be thought about.
And then you made comments about, again, not only observing the amount of traffic, but not being opposed to living on a gravel road. And you voiced concerns about market value and having that happen 2 or 3 times. The last question, why was this road chosen? And I guess I would ask the individuals who are on the road committee to both of you comment on that. I'll begin with you.
The city has a long-standing policy where they are attempting to pave all the roads eventually in the city of Breezy Point. This happened to be on a list of candidates that goes back a number of years, and you're right. At first we wanted to pave the entire road. Our intention is to pave the half in 15 and then go back and do the other half in 2016, so that the entire segment would be paved. But as was pointed out, our budgetary constraints projected for next year says that prudently we'll have to do half and then come back and do the other half. I heard what you said about Winter Trail, and I don't disagree with you. There were some attempts made in previous years where streets got paved, but not the entire segment, and it's always been kind of a head scratcher. Also, the concept of was at one time that the city would participate in cost of these roads when they're paved for the first time, but that has changed because the argument was, if I lived on a roadway that I've already paid for, and my taxes would then go and would go towards paving somebody's road, rather than through assessment. I paid through an assessment, you know, I guess if you had asked me, I'd say very honestly, I've already paid for my road. Why should I pay for somebody else's? Why don't they, pony up and pay for theirs just like, I did. When I moved into this community, I discovered that there was this idea of a long-range road paving program. So, I mean, I was totally aware that eventually roads are gonna get paved, and that the concept of the city participation has changed. And I believe that changed before I got on the council, but it now is done through assessment. And I think, Joe, correct me, the policy is that it's 100% for the new paving. If we have to go back and repave it, then the city does pick up a portion of the cost.
Depends on the life of the road, how old it is.
Okay, so fill in the blanks.
I believe the policy says if it's more than 15 years old, the property owners would have to pay for it again, much like he was talking about.
But anything 15 or less.
That's the city for a portion of the cost, pro rata share.
And that was, really as a guarantee that, we're warranting that road to last more than 15 years, hopefully 20 years. And yeah, you're right, it should enhance your property values. And yeah, your taxes, if you've got, I don't know what kind of an increase in your assessed or your taxable market value your taxable value that you received, again, there is a opportunity for you to come to the city when the county assessors are here and plead your case, and that occurs generally in April, I believe. Yeah.
And I understand that, and I realize that. I have the opportunity to come and talk about the assessed market value of my place. I guess I don't have an issue with the fact that the market value went up on it this year and that I am gonna pay more taxes. What I do have an issue for is now I'm gonna pay for it again, for something I don't want, which is a road that's paved, because I don't feel that we need to have it paved. And I do understand the point that, yes, the eventual plan is for Breezy to have all the roads paved. I understand that. Will the day come? I'm sure it will. Maybe by that time I won't be there anymore. I grew up in this area. I grew up on the south end of Pelican Lake, lived here all my life, and I've seen the changes that have taken place around here. Not that I necessarily agree with it all, but it's there. And I can remember when the first road was paved around here in some of these areas, and thought how interesting it was, and here we are all those years later, and we've got more of them. So I get where Breezy's coming from. I know where they're coming. At this point, though, I don't agree that it needs to be paved. And honestly, if the traffic was there to warrant it, I probably wouldn't have an issue with it. The traffic's not there. Just don't need it. And when I look at the maintenance of that road and how it's maintained, we have very little issues with that road. And I live there, so I drive it all the time. So.
Thank you. Please don't sit down yet. Councilmember Maroney, do you wish to add further comment or anything to this discussion?
I think Otto hit on all the points that I was thinking of.
Okay. As you've been standing there and we've been grilling you and you've been responding, have you thought of anything else, Todd?
No, not at this point.
Then I will sort of close our discussion, but I need to ask you a question. This letter came addressed to Breezy Point City Council.
Correct.
And it is dated December 15th, 2014.
Yeah.
Did the person hand it to you?
The person actually handed it to my wife, Deanne.
Okay. And I'll read the letter out loud and then I will give it to Joe here. To whom it may concern, we are opposed to the blacktopping of Shady Trail at this time. Prior to Shady Trail being done, Winter Trail should be completed. Sincerely, this is where I'm having a little trouble. My background's in nursing. I thought I could read most names in writing, but I don't want to misspeak. Is it Julie Kinsler?
Yeah.
Kintzler, I believe. Okay, she lives at 7976 Shady Trail, Breezy Point, Minnesota, and gives her phone number. Thank you for bringing this in. Thank you for accepting it. And Joe, this will be here for you to add to the file then. Thank you very much for coming forward. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Jonathan Heinzman, and I'm on 8155 of Shady Trail.
Okay.
My wife and I make lots of trips around through the area, and we see a lot of homes that are foreclosed and empty, and that concerned us for a while, and we've seen lots of homes go up for sale recently. And I heard one of the council members here say that kind of that attitude of if you build it and make a drive or a road real nice, make the city real nice, people will want to be there. I think that's true in the long run, and so I understand the desire to improve the area and to improve the quality of living of all the residents in the area. So I know that not just my opinion needs to be considered, but I am opposed to this project, namely for the cost of it, and that I am a simple person, and there are lots of people who enjoy this area and don't need the flashy chrome, if you want to call it that. I think that it's a beautiful area, and the attractions are undeniable, and there are lakes, and there are, you know, public trails and stuff in the area, and those are very nice, and we partake of those. And I don't need a improvement to my personal road for me to enjoy that. As far as a nuisance of dust and things like that, the city has done an amazing job, and I can testify that this particular road does very well with the oil that they do lay down on it, or whatever that treatment is for the summer. It does work very well in this particular road. It does not seem to wash away a lot, and so the dust from this particular road is quite well managed, in which actually I would say thank you, road management, for that. And I realize too, you know, you're trying to meet the needs of the people, and again, I would state simply that my needs aren't so glamorous, and I particularly enjoy the simplicity of the area, and the lower cost of living has a high impact on me personally. An extra $500 a year in taxes, approximately. Actually, I look at and I go, I prefer not to have to pay that. You know, I had a change in my salary that was just $3,000, and that impacted me negatively because it was in the red direction. So little things like that, $500 might not seem like a whole lot, but for me, that's my Christmas. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
That's all. Do you have any questions for me personally?
As I review my notes regarding what you've said, you've been very eloquent in your explanation of why you don't want this. I don't have any questions written down. Do you have any questions about the process? I mean, you've been here long enough now to listen to most of the questions being asked, so.
No, I'm fine.
Thank you very much for coming forward.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to come forward?
Hi, I'm Bert Brogenkamp. I live on 7854 Shady Trail. And I am concerned. I live on the corner lot, and I own lot 1, 2, and 3. And so that's like a half a mile. No, it's just whatever
Seems like it though.
from Scenic Overlook down to White Overlook. And when I moved there 10 years ago, or purchased the home, I did some curb appeal. I had the driveway tarred and different things. Well, 2 years later, first I need to say it was a low-maintenance road when I moved there. Then 2 years later, they came along and built the road. So half of my paved driveway disappeared, And so Anderson came out and they designed my tarred driveway so the runoff would run down the ditch instead of standing, you know, in my driveway. So I paid for that. So I'm really concerned about that paving going through. I mean, I don't approve of it. I mean, I'm satisfied with the gravel road. It's been well maintained for the length of time I've lived there. And I like living in Breezy. I like living where I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for us, Kurt? Very good. Does anyone have any questions? No.
But in case the project goes forward, I would want somebody to come out and look at my situation.
In terms of the drainage, the part that you had Anderson's address before, once there was a change. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward?
Through the course of conversation,
The public hearing is still open. Yes, you may come forward.
When I look at the amount of homes on Shady Trail, I think I see as many people in the room that are opposed to it. The remaining are lots, and the value of a lot in Breezy Point, although at times, and when I purchased some of mine, they were, $15,000 to $20,000. They're on the market for $10,000, and they're not really selling. If you oppose the cost that's $7,000, $8,000 to all those lots, I think you're going to find that people are that are making their tax payments on them can't sell them. That's really going to be a point where they're ready to just let them go. And so then where will that cost come from? So you'll be burdened in lots that will go back into the ownership of the city. And will the city then pay that, or I'm not clear how that would work. The other side of it, the other gentleman made a point to the traffic. Well, the traffic on Snowman Circle it accesses eight lots, and it's built up. And I know two of them, myself, are opposed to it. And if the majority of people within that circle were opposed to it, then why would we pave it unless the city wants to pave it? And if the city wants to pave it, then maybe that should be something they would budget for. So that'd just be my points there.
Thank you for your additional comments. Joe, you may not have this number on the top of your head, but I do know it was part of a previous discussion, and that was in reference to the number of homes located on already paved streets that are unoccupied. It's a fairly substantial number.
Yes, it is.
So if individuals want to move to this city and paving is what they're looking for, there is ample opportunity for them to find a residence.
There's ample properties with sewer and pavement, yes.
Okay. The exact number is,
I don't.
that's okay. I didn't forewarn you, so I just wanted to make that point. I have not closed the public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Maury, I know you don't live over there, but you're a good, interested citizen. And Brian is our road maintenance person. And the row of three are related, so they've basically given us their perspective. So I think everyone's had an opportunity. If no one else wants to come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing. I will do that. According to the rules I was given 8 years ago, I have to say that 3 times. This public hearing will close unless someone wants to come forward. This public hearing is closed unless someone would like to come forward. With that, we have concluded the public hearing. The council is at the point now where we are going to consider Resolution 14-29. There is a copy of this resolution included in the packet. It comes right after page 11 of 11. It's a resolution ordering and plans and specifications for roadway improvements to Snowman Circle and Shady Trail. There are a number of points. Now therefore be it resolved by the Breezy Point City Council that such improvements are necessary, cost-effective, and feasible as detailed in the feasibility report. If we pass this resolution, Tim Hool of WSN is hereby designated as the engineer for this improvement. The engineer shall prepare plans and specifications for the making of such improvements. Number 3, should the city council determine that it will issue bonds to provide for financing of this improvement, it declares its official intent to reimburse itself for the cost of improvement with a tax-exempt bond. First step, I need a motion, I need a second, then we will go down the line and have council discussion on this resolution. Would anyone care to make the motion? This would be Resolution 14-29, and as it's written, it's for Snowman Circle and Shady Trail.
I'll make the motion to approve Resolution 1429 as it's written.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. Councilmember Lillehei, may I ask you to make a comment if you wish?
From the standpoint of looking forward into the development of the city, I think, as Commissioner Schmidt so well put, it's the desire of the city to eventually have all the roads paved. However, the selection and the priority is still something that we are working on. I do have one question in regarding first off, the longevity of the road and the cost of paving. We had a workshop a while back with Mike Rood where he was talking about the bituminous paving. And the way I understood it, bituminous paving, if you just put it down, it's going to last probably for 15, maybe 20 years in that ballpark. If you just put it down and essentially do nothing to it. And he was also saying that with proper maintenance, a bituminous road could last basically, he was hesitant to use the word forever, but he was saying it's not uncommon to go 20 to 50 years on a well-maintained road, depending on the periodic maintenance, the sealing that you do on it, and the crack filling and all that kind of stuff. So it is somewhat of a flexible target. It's pretty hard to hit. The other thing has to do with the cost of the bituminous itself. That's the biggest cost in the road. And several years back, we've been dealing with $100 a barrel oil. Currently, the projections are well into 2015 that oil is going to be half that. In fact, there's news articles right now talking about $40 a barrel oil. How would that affect the cost of these projects if we had a substantial decrease in oil price?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, please.
Round numbers, for bituminous, about 5% is the oil, by weight, not 5% of the price, but, so it's not, it won't swing the price of bituminous incredibly. There is gasoline though, to fuel vehicles, so there's several issues that come into play when contractors bid a project. Some contractors may have already bought their bituminous oil for next year, which maybe they're not getting quite the break. Others are going to be buying their oil and might get a better break. So I can't tell you, a direct correlation between the price of oil, barrel of oil, and the price of bituminous. It's there's a lot of market factors. But as I mentioned during the presentation, today I'm looking at the price of gas. I'm hopeful that we've estimated on the high side. And should this project go to a public bid, I'm hopeful that we would be having some lower numbers when we come into the bid.
Okay, thank you.
I'm dancing around without a firm answer, but I don't have a firm answer for you.
Okay.
Do you have further comment or
No.
question? Councilmember Schmidt.
Joe, the way this resolution is structured, it's either the whole enchilada or nothing, the way I'm looking at it. If this, so it's an up or down vote, does it take a 4/5 or just a majority?
4/5 would be order the project at this point.
And at this point, it's just the majority of the council.
And if the council wanted to amend it, I mean, we've already got a motion and second on the table, but if you wanted to do, you know, part of it, not all of it, you can just amend it here and we'll just take out part of it.
If we, pardon me,
We could also vote this down and,
and then, okay, that was my question. Okay.
okay, Councilmember Maroney,
I have nothing.
Councilmember Williams.
My question was what Otto raised about splitting the project.
Okay, no further question. There is a motion on the floor. The motion relates to the resolution as it's presented in the packet. It's numbered 14-29, and it does include both Snowman Circle and Shady Trail. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion defeated. At this point, if you, because we've had discussion along this line, I can entertain another motion, correct?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to, now, would the resolution number remain the same?
Yes.
I'd like to move resolution 1429, but just address the project on Snowman Circle.
So we would strike Shady Trail out of all of the comments, correct?
Correct.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Councilmember Schmidt, do you wish to comment?
I heard some things today on Shady that, this is the way you have the public hearing, because we don't come to these things knowing everything there is to know. I think there were some valid points. I think we have to get back to the drawing boards and look at any of those segments of roadways in the city that were only half completed and try and figure out how we address those and perhaps do those first. Eventually Shady's going to get paved. I think, the project's out there. If it's not done next year, it's going to be back in the discussion in 16 or 17, sometime in this decade. So I would encourage you to be prepared. The comprehensive planning process that the city went through was very clear. We're a growing community. We're the third largest city in Crow Wing County. We expect that things will continue to grow. The miserable economy that we've been in for these past 8 years, I guess, 7 years, we're coming out of it. And I think we're going to see development, and we're going to see people coming in wanting to construct on these lots. They're going to want paved streets. I know I did when I came here. Perhaps you didn't, but there's just a different breed of cats. I mean, there's a lot of people coming from places that they all had paved roads, and they would like to think they can live in a city in northern Minnesota up north, but with paved roads. Now, maybe that isn't your idea of a good cup of tea, but there's a lot of people here that feel that way. So I can understand the Snowman Circle. I think there's a couple of things we got going for us on that one. One is that it's a cul-de-sac. It's a short cul-de-sac. It does have some drainage issues. This is a good way to take care of it, in my view. It does connect with a road that's already paved, and I would like to see that project as well as some others that we can go back and clean up. But for the time being, I hear what you're saying, and we'll go forward.
Councilmember Lillehei.
I agree with everything that Otto has said, as far as Shady Trail being one of our priorities, but maybe not right now. And I think if we looked at Shady Trail in a larger project, also picking up that little stub, down to connect into the paved portion of Winter Trail. I've already had comments from a person living on that little stub saying, when are you going to pave that? So I do agree with that, and I think taking the smaller bite at this point would be advisable. And again, it is my desire to see regular progress being made on the roads on a priority basis, so that we can show improvement coming to our city. And as Commissioner Williams said, when the public sees a growing city where things are being improved, we will get more people moving here. Get more people moving here, it increases our tax base, and it lowers or keeps everybody's taxes lower. So we'll have more goods and services that we can afford. We'll be able to have a better community overall. That's my opinion.
Councilmember Williams.
I have no additional comments.
Councilmember Maroney.
We are kind of contradicting ourselves here. You know, we're saying that eventually all the roads will be paved, but yet we're holding off on a concept that we met with, and we met with Public Works. We got their input on which roads would benefit the city of being maintained to be blacktopped. So for us to continue moving forward, we will hear opposition on every single roadway that we do. And for us to keep withdrawing from that, I fear that we won't get where we want to be. What I'm hearing is a consensus is that most of us want to see the roads developed, paved, blacktop. We had 2 roadways that we had in front of us tonight that we have decided to remove one due to opposition. And we will incur that with every road that we do. There will never be a road that we go through this process that 100% of the landowners will want to do. So for us to withdraw a roadway from this, I fear it'll continue to go through that process. We'll come up with a concept, we'll get to a point that we'll have to withdraw it. The other concept was to do more during this project, but again, we didn't want to incur the debt. But also, if we had more projects for a contractor to come into, they'd have more favorable bids. Now we're talking about a small section of roadway for a contractor to come into town just to do. So I fear what the bids are going to come with. I'd like to see what those bids are, because although we're going to ask for the bids, doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to do them, but we'll have something that can sit on the shelf for the next 5 to 10 years that we can pull off, dust off, and be ready to implement. I would have wished that we could have seen Shady Trail get spec'd out so we could see what that cost was actually going to be, because we might have a favorable bid that this might come in $50,000 less for this year, but now we're not going to do it. It may be coming $50,000 more the next year. So for us to have potentially gotten what that was going to be and potentially not move forward with it at a later point, I would have liked to see that so we can have that plan in place and know what that cost will be. Again, we have a very high level estimate of what this is going to be. We have no idea what the final number is going to be, and now I don't know what Snowman Circle will be with just a small project for a contractor to come in.
Any further comments? Okay, I would just like to make a comment here. We're looking at Snowman Circle. Number of lots, according to the packet, is 7. When we had the open house, Mr. Neer did come in. He's also a property owner, he and his wife, on that block. His end comment, he made several comments, and one was, had you done this in 2008, it would have cost us a whole lot less. The situation in the city was such that it was best not to move forward then. He also, I remember him distinctly saying he didn't care one way or another. I think you asked him the question. Is that what you recall, Michael?
I think Diane asked the question if he was directly opposed to it, and he says no, he was in favor for it.
He said he was in favor?
Yes.
Okay. My understanding was it was either
I
way.
asked him because I couldn't tell from the way he was talking whether he was actually for it or against. He said, no, he was in favor.
Okay. Well, given all the input that I've had, I will call the question.
And if I may add one quick thing.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
I won't. I can't. I won't speak on their behalf without them having public
Okay.
comment.
Yes.
Just a comment. I understand what Michael is saying, and I don't disagree with the idea that if you can construct a bigger project, you're going to have economies in scale. I was not happy with pursuing half a Shady Trail. I wanted to do the whole thing. The problem was we just didn't have the horses to do it, and without the money available, the project wasn't going to get done. So the compromise was, let's do half. Well, the problem is next year, and who knows what that's gonna bring, or the year after, we may end up with just half of Shady being paved if we had gone along with the idea of just doing half a road. I think what we're gonna have to do going forth is look more comprehensively at completing a project that makes some sense from beginning to end, rather than doing it in bits and pieces. So, like I said, I'm one of these council members that, and my term is up in 2 years, by the way, so you got opportunity to make sure I'm not sitting here again. Eventually, these roads are gonna get paved, and we're trying to do it as economically as we possibly can. The only editorial comment I'll make, this whole thing with oil right now, folks, is a smoke and mirror deal, and it's there for one purpose, and that's to cut off our capacity to pull that oil out of the ground. So that may come to a screeching halt next month. The people that are controlling that market could shoot that thing right back up to over $100 a barrel in a very short period of time. So, and like Tim pointed out, it's not the biggest part of the project cost anyhow, but it's something to consider. So I guess I've said enough, and the mayor's getting antsy. She wants out of here. It's her last meeting.
Quite all right. I'm prepared to stay for a very long time, because I do not have too many other meetings to go to. So I will stay as long as necessary. As Tim Huel showed us in the beginning, per page 2 out of 11, this is one step in the process. There will still be more information forthcoming if we proceed to move forward now. And the council at that point in time, once they have all the information regarding costs, can look at this in another way and say, it's too much for the small project we're doing, we need to stop and enlarge upon it, or we can proceed, whatever. Right now, I'm going to call the question unless there are no other comments from council. The motion on the floor is a resolution ordering plans and specifications for roadway improvements to Snowman Circle. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, motion carries. So it's one step along the way. You will take that forward, correct, Joe?
Yes. So the engineering costs then are paid for by the city if the project does not go forward, or is that split amongst the 7 of the houses?
City will pay for it.
City does. And, you know, if it doesn't go forward, it's put on the shelf and
If I remember
hopefully...
correctly, you did all the engineering back in 2008, 2009, so that engineering or the shelf life, the cost of paving and those things that we could dust up, certainly 5 years from now, but 5 years in the past, you have that information.
Some things are, you know, just because of time and change, probably not, you can't reuse the information, but the majority of it, I mean, the engineering, am I stating that correctly, Tim?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we're gonna use everything and anything that we can.
Thank you. Okay, that motion, that resolution has been approved. Do we need a motion to publish?
No.
No, okay. We have one other item on the agenda, and this is approval of claims, checks number 131,708 through 131,739. That's a total of $12,027.66. In addition to that, once we received our packet, there was an additional, there were 2 actual claims put forward today that we all received notice of. They came to a total of $6,740.48. Copper Creek Landscaping, this is the final payment for the fishing pier railing, and Oasis Oil. If we approve these claims, that comes to a total of $18,768.14. May I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the claims? Anyone? If not, I ask for approval to pay. Aye. Calling the question.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, we'll pay our bills.
That's
And
good.
it says we can be adjourned, so we will. Thank you. Meeting is over.